All right, buckle up for this deep dive. You handed us a real head-scratcher this time.
Yeah.
The link between beliefs and our biology. Featuring Dr. Bruce Lipton,
Right.
the cell biologist, and Dr. Mark Hyman, the physician,
Yeah.
chatting about how what we think, even believe, can actually impact our physical health. Wild, right?
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Both these guys, I mean, they're heavy hitters in their fields.
Yeah.
Dr. Lipton's work in epigenetics and cell biology has been groundbreaking, flipping our understanding of genes on its head.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Hyman's been a champion for this whole mind-body connection thing in functional medicine for ages.
Right.
So their thoughts on this are definitely worth unpacking.
Totally. And get this, one of the most jaw-dropping things they talk about is how adopted kids can actually develop the same types of cancers as their adoptive families.
Oh, wow.
Even if their genes are completely different.
Yeah.
That alone makes you realize something else must be at play.
Absolutely. It raises the question.
Yeah.
If our genes aren't the only thing dictating our health destiny, then what is?
Right.
It seems both doctors are pointing towards the power of belief.
So, like, if you're convinced you're going to get sick, you're more likely to?
Think of it like this. Have you ever heard of the placebo effect?
Mm.
It's a classic example. When someone believes they're getting a beneficial treatment,
Right.
even if it's a sugar pill,
Yeah.
their body can actually start making changes that lead to improvements.
Oh, yeah.
It's like their belief is triggering their own healing mechanisms.
Oh, wow.
On the flip side, you've got the nocebo effect,
Okay.
where negative expectations can actually lead to negative outcomes.
Hmm.
It really highlights how intertwined our mental and physical states truly are.
Okay, so how do we go from a sugar pill to something as serious as cancer?
Well, Dr. Lipton tells this fascinating story about his research with stem cells.
Okay.
They're like blank slate cells,
Right.
capable of turning into any type of cell in the body.
Yeah.
He cloned these genetically identical stem cells, but then he put them in 3 different petri dishes, each with a slightly different environment, like changing the food the cells were getting.
Okay, so same genes, different environments. What happened?
He found that depending on the environment,
Yeah.
the cells developed into muscle, bone, or fat.
Oh, wow.
That really challenged the prevailing thought at the time that genes controlled everything.
Hmm.
This showed the environment was playing a huge role too.
So is he suggesting that our bodies are like giant petri dishes?
In a way, yes.
Okay.
Our bodies are the petri dishes, and our blood is like that culture medium, the environment those cells are living in.
Right.
So the things we think and feel, all those emotions, they're actually impacting the chemistry of our blood, which in turn affects our cells.
So it's not just about what we eat or the toxins we're exposed to, but our thoughts and feelings are part of that environment too. I've heard about epigenetics. Is that what we're talking about here?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Epigenetics is this fascinating field that shows how our genes aren't set in stone. Think of your genes like a light switch.
Okay.
They can be flipped on or off, dimmed or brightened.
Wow.
And it's these environmental signals, which include our thoughts and emotions,
Right.
that can actually flip those switches.
So we're not just stuck with whatever genes we inherit. We actually have some control over how they express themselves.
Yeah, Dr. Lipton uses a great analogy. Genes are like blueprints for a house,
Yeah.
but the environment determines which rooms get built, what paint colors are used.
Right.
You might have the blueprint for a certain disease, but that doesn't mean you're guaranteed to burn that house.
That's actually really empowering.
It is. It gives us a sense of agency over our health.
Yeah.
But how do those thoughts and emotions actually talk to ourselves?
Right.
Well, Dr. Lipton made this fascinating discovery about the cell membrane,
Okay.
the outer layer of a cell.
Yeah.
Turns out, it's not just a passive barrier. It actually acts like a tiny computer chip.
Wait, a computer chip?
It's pretty wild, right?
Yeah.
The cell membrane has these things called receptors. Think of them like little antennas picking up signals from the environment.
Okay.
And then it has channels that act like translators, turning those signals into instructions for the cell.
So our cells are basically eavesdropping on everything we're thinking and feeling.
It's a pretty incredible concept, isn't it?
Yeah.
It means that stress, anxiety, joy, gratitude, all those emotional states are creating this chemical soup that's influencing our cells
Okay.
at a very fundamental level. It starts to paint a clear picture of how powerful that mind-body connection truly is.
I'm starting to see how this all ties together.
Right.
But if our cells are being bombarded with all these signals from our thoughts and emotions,
Yeah.
how do they even know which ones to listen to?
That's where the idea of the conscious and subconscious mind comes into play.
Okay.
You've got your conscious mind, the part of you that's setting goals, making decisions, thinking creatively. But then there's the subconscious,
Right.
which is kind of like running in the background,
Yeah.
taking care of all the automatic stuff, habits, reactions, those kinds of things.
Okay.
And here's the kicker. The subconscious is calling the shots a lot more than we realize.
So like when I'm driving and suddenly realize I don't even remember the last few miles.
Exactly. That's your subconscious mind at work.
Wow.
It's estimated that we spend about 95% of our day
Oh, wow.
operating from subconscious programming. And guess what? Our subconscious is largely shaped by those early childhood experiences.
Oh, so all those things we pick up from our parents, caregivers, even society when we're kids, those can actually end up driving our adult behavior.
Pretty much. It's like for the first 7 years of life,
Okay.
our brains are these little sponges soaking up everything around us.
Right.
We're learning how to navigate the world.
Yeah.
But we're also absorbing beliefs, patterns, even fears from those around us.
Ah.
And all that gets embedded in our subconscious mind, which then pretty much runs the show on autopilot for the rest of our lives.
That's kind of mind-blowing and a little unsettling if you think about it.
Right.
It makes you wonder how much of our lives are really driven by conscious choice versus those pre-programmed beliefs.
That's why it's so important to become aware of those subconscious programs.
Okay.
Because if they're filled with negative or limiting beliefs,
Yeah.
they can really sabotage our efforts to live a healthy, fulfilling life.
Right.
It's like having a program running in the background that's constantly telling you you're not good enough, or you don't deserve success, or that you're destined to get sick.
So how do we even begin to identify those subconscious programs? We're not exactly aware of them when they're being formed.
Dr. Lipton says the best way to uncover those programs
Okay.
is to look for patterns in your life.
Okay.
What are the areas where you constantly struggle?
Yeah.
Where do you feel stuck? Those are usually clues that there's a subconscious belief operating behind the scenes.
Yeah. Okay, so for example, if I keep getting into relationships that fizzle out,
Yeah.
that could be a sign there's some kind of subconscious program around intimacy or commitment that I picked up earlier in life.
Exactly. Or if you're constantly worried about money, even though you're financially secure,
Right.
that might point to a program around scarcity or lack that you absorbed somewhere along the line.
Wow, that makes so much sense. It's almost like those challenges are trying to show us those hidden programs so we can address them.
Right. It's not about blaming ourselves or our past for those programs.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that we have the power to change them now that we're aware of them.
Right.
And that brings us back to those 3 methods Dr. Lipton talked about.
Okay.
Self-hypnosis, repetition, and energy psychology.
Right. Those are the tools we can use to start rewriting the code, so to speak.
Yeah.
But before we jumped into that, I'm still a little fuzzy on how all this connects to our physical health.
Okay.
You mentioned cancer earlier.
Yes. Well, there's this common misconception that cancer is purely genetic, that if it runs in your family, you're doomed.
Right.
But Dr. Lipton points out that there's actually not a single gene that definitively causes cancer. And he brings up research on adopted children who develop the same cancers as their adoptive families.
Yeah.
Despite having completely different genes.
Well, it seems like there's more to the story than just our genetic makeup.
Definitely. It suggests that something in the environment, the shared experiences,
Right.
or maybe even the beliefs and emotional patterns within that family were contributing factors.
Interesting.
Dr. Lipton's theory is that cancer, along with many chronic illnesses, can often be traced back to these negative subconscious programs running in the background.
So it's like those negative thoughts and emotions, that chronic stress,
Yeah.
they're not just impacting our mental state, they're actually creating a physiological environment that can make us more susceptible to disease.
It seems like it. And Dr. Hyman emphasizes that we readily accept that things like food, exercise, and sleep influence our health.
Right.
Now it's time to expand that understanding
Yeah.
and acknowledge the role of our thoughts and beliefs as well.
So we're not just what we eat, but also what we think.
You could say that. Dr. Hyman even compares our minds to a pharmacy, saying the greatest pharmacy is the one between our ears.
Oh, wow.
Because our bodies are already capable of producing all the chemicals we need for health and well-being.
Okay.
It's just a matter of learning how to access that inner pharmacy through the power of our minds.
That's a powerful image. So it's like if a drug works for us, it's because our bodies are already producing that chemical naturally.
Exactly. It's just that we might not be making enough of it,
Right.
or might not be getting to where it needs to go.
Yeah.
And that's where mindset comes in. Our thoughts and belief can actually influence the production and distribution of those chemicals within our bodies.
So if we can change our mindset,
Yeah.
we can change our internal chemistry and ultimately our health.
That's the whole premise. It's really empowering.
Yeah.
But as Dr. Hyman acknowledges, it can also feel overwhelming.
Right.
Changing those deeply ingrained beliefs isn't always easy. It's a process.
Which is where those 3 methods for reprogramming come in, right?
Exactly.
Self-hypnosis, repetition, and energy psychology.
And if you remember, Dr. Lipton compared falling in love to taking the red pill in the Matrix.
Yeah, I remember that analogy. It's a great one, but what was the connection there again?
Well, when we're in love,
Yeah.
we're so present, so mindful, that we're not running those old subconscious programs.
Okay.
We're experiencing a different reality, one filled with joy, connection, and possibility. It gives us a taste of what's possible when we step out of that matrix of limiting beliefs.
So we can actually experience that same feeling, that sense of joy and freedom, even when we're not head over heels in love.
That's the idea. It's about rewiring our minds so that love, peace, and well-being become our default settings instead of constantly running those old fear and stress programs.
That sounds incredible, but I imagine it takes a lot of work to get there. Knowing where to even start feels overwhelming.
You're not wrong. It's definitely a journey, not a quick fix.
Yeah.
But even taking that first step can make a huge difference. Remember Dr. Lipton talk about how the Jesuits had this saying, "Give me a child until he is 7, and I will show you the man."
He was talking about how those early childhood experiences are so formative, right?
Exactly. It's like during those early years, our brains are operating in this theta brainwave state, which is very similar to hypnosis.
Oh, wow.
So we're basically downloading information from our surroundings without even realizing it.
Yeah.
It makes sense why those early experiences can have such a lasting impact. But it also means we can tap into that same state later in life to reprogram those beliefs.
Okay, that makes sense. But rewiring those deeply ingrained patterns, that can't be easy.
It definitely takes conscious effort. Right.
But the good news is
Yeah.
we have the power to choose a different path, a different way of being.
Mm.
And that's incredibly exciting. It starts with awareness.
Okay.
Dr. Lipton really emphasized recognizing the existence and power of these subconscious programs.
Right.
He suggested looking at the areas in your life where things aren't flowing smoothly.
So those recurring patterns, the things we keep bumping up against, those are like signposts pointing to those hidden programs.
Exactly. Like maybe you're killing it in your career, but your personal relationships always seem to crash and burn.
Yeah.
Or you're incredibly health conscious, but still struggling with unexplained ailments.
Right.
Those persistent challenges can be clues that point to subconscious beliefs working against our conscious desires.
So it's like having a self-sabotage button that we keep hitting without even realizing it.
That's a great way to put it. But simply becoming aware of these programs is a huge step in the right direction.
Oh.
It's like shining a light on those shadows.
Once we see them, they lose some of their power over us.
Okay, so step 1 is paying attention to those areas where we're struggling. Those patterns that keep repeating. What's next?
Then comes the fun part, choosing a different path. Dr. Lipton talks about it like reprogramming a computer.
Oh, yeah.
We need to identify that old limiting program
No.
and replace it with a new empowering one.
I like the analogy, but how do we actually do that? It's not like we can just crack open our skulls and swap out a hard drive.
True, it's not quite that simple.
Right.
But remember those 3 methods we discussed?
Yeah.
Self-hypnosis, repetition, and energy psychology. Those are the tools we can use to rewrite those programs.
Right. So with self-hypnosis, we're using those relaxed theta brainwave states to introduce new positive suggestions to our subconscious.
Exactly. You can find pre-recorded self-hypnosis audios or create your own tailored affirmations.
Okay.
The key is consistency. The more we practice, the more effective it becomes.
And then there's repetition. It's like practicing a new skill, like learning an instrument or a language. The more we repeat that desired thought or behavior, the more deeply it gets ingrained.
It's all about consciously choosing those new thoughts and actions that align with the outcomes we want to see. Over time, those new neural pathways get stronger and those old limiting ones fade away.
And lastly, there's energy psychology. This one feels a little more out there, but you mentioned it can be really powerful.
It might seem unconventional, but techniques like EFT or PSYCHK can be surprisingly effective.
Okay.
They involve tapping on specific points on the body while focusing on the negative emotion or belief you want to shift.
So it's like using a combination of physical and mental approaches to interrupt those old patterns and rewire the brain.
Precisely. These techniques can help release the energy associated with those negative beliefs, which makes it easier to replace them with positive, empowering ones.
We've got all these different tools at our disposal.
Yeah.
Is there one best way to go about reprogramming our subconscious?
That's the beauty of it. There's no one-size-fits-all approach. It's really about finding what resonates with you. Some people swear by self-hypnosis. Others find energy psychology to be more effective. Experiment and see what works best for you.
And we can even combine these methods, right?
Absolutely. The key takeaway is that we have the power to choose.
Right.
We're not stuck with the programming we received in childhood.
Yeah.
We can rewrite our subconscious minds and create a reality that aligns with our deepest desires and values.
It's like we have this incredible ability to become the architects of our own lives.
Exactly. And it all begins with that first step, awareness. Recognizing those patterns and making the conscious choice to change them. It's a journey, and it can be challenging at times, but it's also incredibly rewarding.
So, thinking about everything we've learned today, what limiting belief are you ready to let go of? And what new empowering belief could you start cultivating today?
It's a powerful question worth pondering. And remember, as Dr. Liston reminded us, we are all capable of experiencing heaven on earth, not just when we're falling in love, but in every moment of our lives. It's simply a matter of rewriting the program.